Welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them into your everyday cosplays. Hello, Billy.
Hi, welcome back.
This time, it actually has been a very long time since I have seen you, and this
Yeah.
is so nice. Yeah, summer's winding
Yeah, although
down,
it wasn't
and
too bad. It wasn't too bad as a
yeah,
break, I
yeah,
think, there
yeah.
will always be a break. Yeah, I
There will
did
always
I
be a
did get a
break.
lot of messages from people
Yeah.
on that first one that we missed, and they're like,
Well,
"Where is it?
where are you? I know. Thanks for
Where's our episode?"
starting your week with us, everybody. That was super sweet to find out that people
Yeah.
were like banking on that for their commute on Monday.
Yeah.
And you had some lovely guests come on and talk with you. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was good. We've both been on this podcast. We had, Parade Rainer on there from Raincore.
Hmm.
Podcast. I tried to secure some other people. I think I've got them in. They were all telling me like, "Hey, I'm like free in like mid-September. I'm free in October." And I'm like, "We need people. We need people
Yeah,
now."
we need people now,
We
but we should have that. We should have that running backlist of like who's available this week.
we do, and I think what's going to be good is that we've got a few people that are really working on like what they want to talk about, what they want to say
Yeah,
and stuff. So
fantastic.
I think that'll be fun.
Unlike me, who I look at our notes the night before, I go, "Oh yeah, that sounds good.
That's
We'll
right.
talk about that."
I'm here. I can't see them.
So you have, I feel like, a very Poe Dameron inspired look today. I have to say, I really like. I feel like your
I am
hair's really
wearing one of
working.
my I'm wearing one of my 2, like, flight jackets. They're not
Yeah,
done. I still have the zippers on. I'm still debating because I wear
yeah,
them out,
yeah,
with the fall and winter coming. I don't know if I'm gonna fully, like, convert them
yeah,
to, a more sort of cosplay situation, but for now, they've got a little bit of flair,
yeah.
They've got
I
a little
like that.
flair.
I like that addition for sure. I've got a few in the closet that I need
I
to work on,
am
which we will talk about.
I'm getting to the point where because I'm always playing with different combinations and different color stories and things like that. And because I'm searching for like what's the next thing. And then once I
Mhm.
lock it in, then that stuff comes out of like regular rotation.
Yeah,
So that I can get my head around like it's time to dirty them up. It's time to
yeah,
like not be able to wear these to the supermarket and not look even more weird,
yeah. Not get real extra looks.
Yeah.
I got it for sure.
Yeah.
So
And which is a great segue because, like you said, we're gonna be talking about changes of looks for
yes,
your original characters, which,
yeah,
I think the birth of Burgundy Squadron was built on that
yeah.
on that pillar where it's like we
Right.
are characters that are, that inhabit the universe and have changes of clothes like many
Yeah.
of our more modern characters.
Yeah, right. And I know when I look because I am doing this, so a little bit about like what's going on with my life, and I'm so busy right now. It's a little crazy. I'm going to this Helsicon in just a few weeks, less than a month. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I am trying to put together sort of a cover character, actually a couple cover
Mhm.
characters, because why do one when you can do more?
Sure.
Um, and that is like so heavy on my mind right now, trying to think of like, well, what is this character's style? What drives them? Because I want it to be very different from my like denizen, my jacket, my like, my
Yeah.
cowls, my ponchos.
Yeah.
And
Your
so I
hero
have been,
look. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've been digging a lot through like screenshots and have a whole Pinterest board, right? And like what is the common thread that is carried through in characters' styles that lets us know, oh, this is still Lando or this is still Leia, right? And so
Right.
I've been kind of dissecting those characters a bit.
Right.
Um and seeking inspiration in that, and whether it's a cut or whether it's a color or something like that. So, you
Yeah.
mentioned color stories, like, I like that
Yeah.
you build a color story.
Well, I've just, and I don't know why I did this, but I did like a little grid, in one of my little, photo apps or
Mhm.
something. I did a little grid of all of the not all of, because 'cause I've done over 30 this year, but, of the different looks that I think are different enough and are doing something different, whether in color or fit or something. And I noticed how much color work I'm doing, um, that's different than, like, last year where I was just kind of,
Mhm.
you know, dealing with a lot of, like, earth tones. Like, now I'm really trying to match colors together, contrast colors, together, and it looks really cool. I did, I believe it's, like, 10 of them or something. Yeah, it is 10.
Okay. Okay.
10 different ones, and I'll show you. I'll send it to you after this,
Yeah.
or I'll put it in the chat. Um, and it's and that's what I've been trying to do with, like, looking at my closet and, like, because what I do is, like, I remix my closet, you know?
Mhm.
So I can pull different looks from all the same things that I have and own and have acquired, by putting those rules onto
Yeah.
myself. Like, you know, I wanna do yellows today. I wanna do sand tones. I wanna do, 2 contrasting colors. I wanna do something that I don't often do, which is I did a look which was orange and gray, which I don't
Oh, yeah, yeah.
really use that often, and
Mhm.
but I have it. It's in my closet.
Right. And I feel like that color code kinda reads rebel to me, like, when you mention it, I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, classic rebel." Like
Yeah, and I'm always playing with, like, because you know, not everything that I post is my OC, you know?
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
although my OC I also have this thing that I'm gonna put up soon where it's like I've nailed down the 5 different looks throughout the lifespan of my OC.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I'll put that up once this episode comes out, and I'll maybe collab with the Off the Rack account because
Yeah.
it just fits, you know. And
Okay.
there's a as I'm like building my story, and that'll be another episode. Um, I'm trying to nail down all the different key points of my character's arc and story, and I think those all come with different looks because you know,
Okay.
the many years, it's a span of like,
That
you
was
know,
another
months.
thing I was thinking of because I was thinking of, I've been looking a lot at Kira, um,
Yeah.
and how her style did change over the phases of her life, right? Like, we see a
Mhm.
very punk look kind of in that first scene with Han, and then we see her much more, um, like that, like, 1940s, 50s kinda femme noir, right, style,
Mhm.
and then in the comic books, even, her style changes further,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, man, they did a great job showing that this" like, she has other influences coming in at these different periods of her
Mhm.
life, and she's in different climates and different scenarios, and I was like, "Oh, they're very different styles, but they still all read her just under different influences." I don't
Yeah.
I so I love that you're, like, thinking of that
Oh,
as, like,
absolutely.
the timeline of your character.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I think anyone in anyone's life, you weren't always one
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and you weren't always influenced by one thing or working under one thing. So,
Mhm.
um, that's a way. I think that's an easy way to kind of have different looks for our characters to think about where they were at different stages of their life. Like my character as a pre sort of joining the quote unquote rebellion, joining the Burgundy Squadron before he was tapped. There was a life before that, and
Mhm.
it was rebel leaning. It was anti-imperial, but I wasn't
Yeah.
officially in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was a life before that, and obviously there are changes afterwards. Like there's a very kind of I just put a photo up of that shacket that I that I cropped
Yes.
and everything, which ended up being like a very sort of mission brief, formal look, almost
Right.
um it doesn't look like it, but it has the same feeling as like Hera's look when she's addressing the you know, the New Republic
Yeah.
Council in Ahsoka, where it's a bit more dressed up, but it's still
Mhm.
you could still see Hera in
Right.
there, and you could still see a bit of defiance in there
Right,
and
right.
rebellion in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
So how do you like so what are you thinking about? Is this your main OC? Are you thinking this is a completely different person or like what are you
Yeah,
thinking?
right, and so that's what my original idea was. I wanted it to be my OC undercover, right? And
Nice.
to be able to say because I and, like, trying to kinda justify the backstory with reality, I guess it was in my head, and, like,
Sure.
I was like, I never went on the Star Cruiser.
Mhm.
I'm going because members of my book club did several times, and they wanted to present, and I was like, "Well, I mean, no, I'm not gonna miss out. Like, I'm going
Sure.
to go." And so then I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't think a lot of people will be really character driven at this event, but I wanted to go ahead and play it like I was going to be."
Sure.
And I was like, "Well, there's, what could be like a backstory?" And I was like, "Well, maybe I'm on this mission. I wasn't on a mission on the Halcyon, but maybe there's some connection I need to make here." And
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay, so I need a cover story, right?" And then I was like, "Well, it'd be fun to do something totally different because my OC's look is very much the coveralls, the cargo pocket vest, the
Yeah.
I love my cap. Like it's
Mhm.
very much what I wear in in the rainy, drab, like cloudy season here in Seattle, right? Where it's just like I don't I don't worry about getting dirty because it's coveralls, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "But I'm going to be in a hotel in Florida, air conditioned. Like, what if I go like more of like a business person who might
Mhm.
have been one of those individuals who did business with whoever was in power. They were one of those people that didn't really care. Okay, like Empire Rebellion doesn't matter as long as I'm making contracts.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, "Well, that's a really different style for me." So that's why I've been looking more at, like, kind of the upper crust, but also trying to filter out, okay, we see a lot of these, like, heavy robes and things like that. Where are we seeing them? Who are we seeing them worn by? Like, there's a lot of real fancy looks worn by Padme, but she's royalty, you know what I mean? And I'm like, "I'm not going
Right.
that far." So I was looking a lot at, like, Lando, he's a businessman, right? Like, I was looking a
Yeah.
lot at, I always say his name wrong. Is it Dryden Voss or Drayden Voss? I never remember.
Trident, I
But
think it's Trident,
yes,
yeah.
I think we've talked about this, and I still never remember. But I've been looking, and he was only in that one movie, but have been kind of picking his look apart and like picking apart the looks of people in the background on his at
Yeah.
his party. And like
Well, these are
then
all also Underworld characters, because even Lando, like,
yeah.
he's a businessman, but I mean, really,
Dealt with the
like
underworld. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right, I know, and then I was like, well, and there's, who else? I was looking a little bit at, like, Mon Mothma, but I feel like she's a little bit too much like she
Mhm.
is the upper crust, and I'm like somebody doing business with the upper crust. So I feel
Right.
like there's similarities, but there's a slight difference. So
Yeah.
and spoiler alert, I don't have it dialed in, and it's in a few weeks. And I'm just like,
I'm
okay, I'm
sure it's
starting to
gonna be
panic a
great.
little
I mean,
bit,
you
but
always
thank
yeah,
you.
you always pull it out.
Thanks.
I know
It's
we
funny,
talk
like
about
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
we talk about Andor a lot, like,
Yeah.
on this podcast, and it's because I think I mean, it's just the gold standard, like, I
It's
think.
so good if you haven't figured out it's our favorite yet.
I know, and what I love is I love that Aldani crew. I did sort of a
Yes.
lot of inspiration goes into, like, Burgundy Squadron and the motivations of those characters and the
Yeah,
dual lives of those characters,
yes.
and one that I really love is Vel,
I love her too.
because she is a rich
Mhm.
woman,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
who gets down and, like, and gets her hands dirty,
Yeah.
but then has to show face,
Yeah. Has to go
so
ahead and
that
go
so
blend in back at home,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like, "Okay, take
Yeah.
the tattered furs off and go,
I
like,
know.
dress in that style." So,
Those
yeah.
hairdressers on Coruscant, I mean, it must be a fortune to get all that dirt and matted hair out
Can you
in time
imagine
for a
walking
dinner
back in and
party.
being like, "Where have you
Where have you
been?" And,
been?
like,
Yeah,
what's
'cause
her cover story? Like
she's got this, like, shiny, like,
right?
voluminous hair at a dinner party, and then
She
next
either
week
is really good with her own hair, which I'm a little worried about doing mine, but she's either really good at her own hair or has somebody that is in the know that she
Oh,
can
there's
go to.
somebody there. Somebody there that's
Like
got 4 or 5 arms and
right?
is doing all types of things all at
Yeah,
once.
she walks in the door, they're like, "Oh, honey, again?" She's like, "Yeah, I gotta be there at 6 o'clock." Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I know, please make
like
me presentable.
yeah.
But I mentioned that because that dinner party, there's a lot of, like, blink and you'll miss it, stuff.
Mhm.
The dinner party where I think is she there? I don't know if she's there. But the Mon Mothma dinner party has a lot of,
Yeah.
political people, business type people,
Mhm,
and it's a sort of dinner party sort of
mhm,
you know look. It's not all the way sort of evening wear, so you won't feel like you're in a gown or something.
mhm,
But I do
mhm.
feel like there's a lot of information in the background
Yeah,
here. Also, a
yeah,
lot of
there's a lot of
aliens. People said there weren't
yeah,
aliens in Andor, and I'm like, yeah, there were.
yeah, you just had to look in the background, always the background. Yeah,
But there's a lot of good stuff in there as well. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, so definitely, like, thinking about the reason why is, like and who and where they're coming from is definitely trying to and I don't wanna look too Alderaanian or not, Alderaanian,
Rasanti.
thank you, yep, I don't wanna look too, like, yeah, that, like, core world because I think it also is a like, wanting to be like, "Oh, way in the background character," right?
Right.
Like yeah, so, like, even trying to nail down, like, what world I'm coming from is something which we'll
Right.
talk about, like, building your character backstory and how that
Right.
affects your decisions that you're making in your costuming, so, um but yeah, also, the thing that I've been trying to find is finding that linear thread that goes through because, I used Lando as one example, and they did a great job of having this character who comes back, but it's a prequel, and how do we make
Mhm.
him still look like Lando? And
Mhm.
I love that it was like, well, the cape is his thing. So, so his cape, I feel like was that really linear, like, we're keeping that in the look, especially because, like, they played with some really fun patterns and colors for the prequel or for the prequel, for Solo,
Mhm.
whereas, like, I feel like then we see him like, "Well, yeah, I'm a businessman. I'm in charge of this cloud city. I wanna be this upstanding figure, but I'm keeping the cape." Like, I'm gonna tone down
Yeah.
the color tone, and so I feel
Yeah.
like they built on that with that one linear thing, or if you look at Leia, she's classic. It's the
I
white,
love that
right?
they included his closet of capes
Yes.
in there to
I
almost
know. To really
reinforce,
drive
like,
that
this is
home, right?
Mando. This is I think they did such incredible work on that character
Yes.
and his younger
I know.
self, um,
Right?
that I thought those are those little touches that can allow for a change of clothes, but still
Yeah.
keep the essence of a
It's
character,
still
you know?
yeah, the proper silhouette for that character,
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then when you think about Leia where everyone's like, "Oh, white is kinda her signature color," and then I feel like we know that so much because when she's in Cloud City, obviously somebody
Mhm.
finds her a pair of clothes to wear, right? And
Right.
it's the burgundy and that kinda off-white, and it's not
Mhm.
her signature style, and then when the Ewoks dress her up, it's not her signature color, and then, when she's on Endor in that uniform, it's not her signature color, and we kinda know that,
Yeah.
and so I feel like some characters it's the cut, some characters it's the color and, like, the color story, like you mentioned, so I feel like
Yeah.
deciding what is going to be that linear thread for your character, what's gonna carry through, um, is an important piece to, like, tell that
Right.
visual story.
Right, yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, I mean, obviously, like, there's a lot of burgundy in my closet,
There's a
so,
lot of burgundy.
I try to sort of keep some kind of, my own sort of signature color in there, but I've I've, um, I've gone away from that, and used it a little
Yeah,
more sparingly, especially since now I'm sort of starting to think about the lifespan of the character.
yeah.
And there is a pivotal point, obviously I get tapped for Burgundy Squadron and take on the mantle of Burgundy leader.
Mhm,
So that's that hero look with the Gabbercrete jacket.
mhm,
And then there's one, like, that's pretty much the look unless I'm, like, undercover or on the run or
mhm.
something like that, where it completely changes. Obviously, it must, completely change. Or on the run. You can't just, you can't have
Yeah,
your signature jacket when you're trying to evade capture, because 'cause they're just
right.
gonna look for the jacket?
Exactly.
Um
Well, we always know he's wearing this.
we always know he's wearing this, so if you see a guy, that's him. Um, but even then, there's a change to a a set of armor that I pick up before when I'm sort of running around on my own and kind of on the run from both sides, with a little bit of help from the partisans. But then I bring that helmet back as like whenever we need to go really loud on a mission.
Mhm,
I mean, I want to
mhm.
be covered up as just for protection. So I bring
Yeah.
that back, but I've added burgundy to it. So
Mhm.
that V2 Imp Hunter has like a burgundy flak vest just to sort of connect like from this point on it's burgundy
Nice.
squadron and before then it was something else.
Mhm. Mhm. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So it's difficult. I don't know how to answer that question. It's a
Mhm.
feeling, right? You got to go by
Right.
feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is, and we'll talk about this more, but it is digging into that backstory like they did with Lando, right? And,
Yeah.
like, who is this person, and what are make like, what's he using to make these choices in his style, like, what
Yeah.
previous experiences and things like that, so
And I think also don't discount like your face
yeah,
is the
yeah,
common thread because
yes.
we also do have a member, Astra, who was the first person to come to the squadron with like two alternate looks, like from the start.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
and she wears a crown on her head. She's the very upper crust, but then has a sort of rebellion look as well. And
Yeah.
I was like gaga over it because I was like, oh my God, this is
Yes.
exactly what what we're looking
Yes, that's a
for.
story with depth, right? I love
Yeah.
that.
And the common thread is that, she's a person. She is the
Mhm.
same person. The
Right,
same with Vel. I mean, she looks completely different,
right.
but
Yeah,
that's her
yeah,
face.
and
Well,
for a
it could
reason,
be
right?
completely different. Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So, it's very much tied to that character's story, for sure.
Mhm.
So,
And, let's see. Oh, yeah, so,
I have those notes.
I think any character could have their signature sort of hero look. You're talking about,
Mhm,
like, your Han Solo, like,
mhm.
there's a very definite hero look that you think of
Yeah,
for a character like that, but we've also seen him in different iterations that still feel the
yeah.
same. In the sequel trilogy, Han Solo looked like Han Solo, but he wasn't dressed like Han Solo,
Oh, totally.
you
But it
know?
was still a similar cut, right? It was different
Yeah.
garments, but with a similar, and I feel like for him, that's his comfort of, like,
Mhm.
a certain cut and maybe a similar color story. I mean, I know, like, originally we
Yeah.
meet him, he's wearing kinda like almost that, almost the blue jean material on his pants,
Blue
right?
and black vest
Um,
and a
but
white.
it yeah, and then he starts to go, I think, more into some earth tones, because then he
Mhm.
changes to his brown, um, but I feel like it still reads very, he's not wearing burgundy, he's not wearing orange, right? He's still
Right.
wearing very colors that blend in,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Well, his whole life is about, you know,
Mhm,
evading, being
mhm.
seen. He's a smuggler,
Yeah,
and once a smuggler, always a smuggler. I mean, we see
right.
him into old age still
Yeah, yeah,
doing jobs.
and I feel like Han might probably, subconsciously inspire what I put together oftentimes, because I do like my taller boots with my, like, pants tucked in. I do like my crop jacket or vest if I'm not in my coveralls. So I feel like I feel like those are the 2. It's either like a Han Solo look or like a mechanic look. It's like in
Right,
the back of my head somehow.
right, right,
So,
right. So what have you pulled? I mean, what let's chop it up. Let's try to workshop it. What have you
oh, yeah,
pulled
okay. Oh, man.
for this
Alright,
character? I'm very excited.
I mean, for months I've been going and overthinking this and talking to friends, and they would give me their opinion and I'm still overthinking it. And I think finally I pulled, like, I think black is going to be the color scheme,
Okay.
which I was trying to stay away from it. I was trying to create another color scheme, but then I was like, I want it to feel very streamlined and svelte and, like, crisp, and I want it to
Mhm.
be very different from what I usually do. And
Absolutely.
I was considering, like, maybe jewel tones for a while as, like, the color scheme, but then I was like, "No, I've done that." And I was like, "I wanna
Yeah.
just go, like, this very, like, very black and white, but there's actually no white, maybe just my pale skin." And I was just like, and so that's what I've got so far. And I've got a few different garments to look at, like some kinda like, um, business style jumpsuits. There is something
Okay.
I'm waiting to come in the mail. It's this really cool, it's like a accordion pleated, kind of a sheer material, but it's a duster jacket. So duster
Okay.
cut, for anyone who doesn't know, is long. So when you're
Mhm.
looking for something like Han Solo's jacket on Endor, that's a duster jacket for anyone who doesn't know
Right.
style terms. Um, and and I was like, "Oh, that could be," 'cause, like, this one jumpsuit is sleeveless, and I was like, "That could be kinda cool to add some
Mhm.
layers, add some flow to it while still trying to look a little business and still have, like, these really linear lines,
Yeah.
so that's one idea, and there are a couple evening things, so, like, there's some more evening dresses, but I was looking for something, like I said, that was very, very, you read about, God, what is the term? I can't it's escaping my mind, but it's basically wearing one color top to bottom, and it's very in right now. There's a term for it.
Um,
Somebody's now I'm gonna forget what it
Sometimes
is.
that's called color blocking, but, like,
Color
color
blocking.
blocking can also be 2,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, but
contrasting
there's a
colors, but
specific term
yeah.
for wearing, anyway, so when you do this term that I can't remember, for us short people, it helps us look a little bit taller.
Right.
And so I think that there is a little bit of, like, I'm trying to look a little more imposing, a little more serious than what I
Right.
actually am.
Right.
And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna play with that with some more spacey looking jewelry, some, like,
Mhm.
bold silver jewelry, something that would pop against this black." Um, that's all I got so far. It's also
Yeah,
gonna
I
be a
think
very busy convention for me. I'm actually on 2 panels, and there's another thing that I'm supposed to be hosting, and, um, Adam from, Junk Traders Outpost has nobody helping with his booth. So
oh,
so
no,
both
did
D
he
and
end
I,
up there alone? Wait, I thought
yeah, so he is there
we had
alone, and
another
so
guildie
I nope, no other
there.
guildies could make it, and so D and I keep being
What?
like, "Hey, when you need a break, we can just slide into your booth. We know nothing, and we'll probably mess everything up because that's how D
Mhm.
and I are, but we'll talk to people." Um, and so, like, in between all of that and still wanting to see things, I'm like, I do also
You
want to
just
keep it very
collect
streamlined.
collect the money before you
I
give
know,
them the
I
thing.
know, right? I will remember, I promise. I
Please.
know. I know if Adam listens to this, he's gonna be like, "That's it, she's not helping." But
Um,
and because, like, Adam is on a panel as well, I wanted to see that, and D is on a panel, and I wanna go see that, and things like that, so it's
yeah,
like, so whatever I'm wearing has gotta be super easy to wear, super streamlined,
right.
um, yeah, so I'm taking all those
I mean,
things
I
in.
think that's your opportunity to do it as well, to get away with
Right?
something that's, like, kind of
Yeah.
very easy to wear for a
Yeah.
con, you know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure,
Um,
and the black also, I always lean away from it when we're doing our looks because I'm always like, "Doesn't black read bad guy?" Right? Like, doesn't
yeah,
isn't it, and so I was like, "Well, yeah, you know what? This character, this cover story character is somebody who, has done dealings with Empire, has done dealings with different crime bosses or whatever." And so I
yeah,
do
morally
like,
ambiguous.
and so I do like the fact that it's bringing in this, like, which side is she on? Kind of feel. So that's, and yeah, and we did see Luke wear black in Return of the Jedi, but it was specifically because we don't know, is he going to the dark side? That was like the costume designer definitely wanted us to question
Right. His
what his story
motivations.
arc is, yeah, his motivations, and was he going to like succumb to it, and with that little flap of white showing up in the end was the symbolism of, hey, there's still light,
Yeah,
he's leaning towards the good side. Yeah, so I think yeah, black was definitely, I was like, all right, no, I'm gonna play with that, and
yeah,
it's also October, and I am full in my own personal style in my goth look, so
yeah,
it was just like, what am I gonna want to wear the first weekend of October? Black in
yeah.
in, in Florida. It's gonna be great. But when we go to the
I don't
park
mind black
on,
for a good guy. Yeah,
yeah, and you've mentioned that a few times, and I'm like, "Okay,
yeah.
alright, yeah." I mean, like, we see black mixed with things, like, Lando has black pants and that light blue shirt when we meet him on Cloud City, but we're also
Mhm.
supposed to be questioning which side Lando's on, right? Like, we're
Right.
also supposed to be going, "Is he a bad guy?" And the same thing with Kira. I mean, like, Kira, when we see
Yeah.
her
And Han has
again,
a
Yeah,
black vest on,
Han's got
and
a black vest, but he's also that guy that's like he's like, "Well, I work for the Hutts right now, even though I'm on the run for them." Right?
right,
Like, he's done dealings with just about anybody, and we're supposed to question, is he gonna stay? Is he gonna stay with
right,
the good guys or not? So
right.
so I think that for that, color coding, that, like, you know, how it connects in the
Yeah.
back of our mind, that's what I finally decided after so much overthinking. So
And, did you say you're gonna go to the parks as well? Or are you gonna go
So we're going to the
to
park on Sunday, which is going to be so much fun because I will finally be taking photos with D, and I am
oh,
so stoked. It's
yeah,
unbelievably excited. And so for that, because I knew I was going to be in sweltering Florida outside, I am not going as this character. So I'm actually going as a second cover story character.
okay,
And that cover story character is a wandering calf stand owner who
okay,
is space hippie. And so it's very
okay.
much the, like, I mean, like, this scarf might go with me because it's very
Yeah,
transparent, it's very light, it's very earth
right.
tones, it's very so, like, that's gonna be the opposite. So, actually, I'm really excited for this because this character I'm gonna play the first 2 days is one end of the spectrum, and the character I'm playing at the park is completely opposite, which
Yeah.
I'm having fun with whether anyone else notices or not. So it's more in line with, like, things that I usually wear, some flowy pants, some, like, a sheer hood to, like, be able to bring up and
Mhm.
to protect from the sun and stuff like that, so, that one was a no-brainer because it's more in my regular wheelhouse, I feel like,
Yeah.
so, yeah. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that also impacts, the changes of look for a character or what look you decide on your characters, your own backstory, like what you
Mhm.
gravitate towards usually as well. So it's
And
another
that's kinda perfect for our next
Mhm.
episode.
Yes.
So that might be a good wrapping point for
I
this as
think
we
that's
start to
perfect.
focus
Dot,
more
dot,
on the
dot, to be
backstories.
continued.
To be
Yes.
continued. Okay. So I wanted to say, thank you to Raimi and thank you to the Dad Patch for having us on as always. Kate, why don't you tell the people where they can find you online?
Absolutely. I am Kate Ryder. You can find me on Instagram at One Scavenger's Wardrobe.
And I'm Billy Maddox over on Instagram. Come find me and visit Off the Rack Rebellion. That's
Yes.
off period the period rack period rebellion at Instagram as well. And
Yeah.
remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now.